Deborah Valentine on 77 WABC, where New York comes to talk.
The Bernie and Sid Show.
Guaranteed to be enormously successful.
It's about truth, the damn truth, New York's truth, the truth behind the BS. For New York, nothing at all in between. This is Bernard McGurk.
So Bernie.
This is Sid Rosenberg.
The one and only Sid.
Live, local, on it.
You never know what's going to happen.
Exclusively.
What is this?
77 WABC.
Hillary Clinton gave China millions of jobs, and our best jobs, and effectively let China completely rebuild itself. In return, Hillary Clinton got rich. The book Clinton Cash by Peter Schweizer documents how Bill and Hillary used the State Department to enrich their family and America's and at America's expense. She gets rich, making you poor.
Yeah. Give me a hand, folks.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. One
Back on
to do with the other.
Back on Bernie and Sid on 77 WABC. The aforementioned author of Clinton Cash, Peter Schweizer, who is also a political consultant. He's on the line with us right now. And I would just say this before we address Mr. Schweizer. The Clinton Global Foundation was not mentioned. For all the good they say it did around the world or does around the world, they didn't mention it one time at the Democratic National Convention. I wonder why. Good morning, Mr. Schweizer.
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing?
Doing always good on Friday, I got to tell you, Peter. Always great on Friday in the summertime, man. Nothing better. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a little bit been a little bit busy. You know, whenever you deal with the Clintons and corruption, it's what they call a target-rich environment. So it's
absolutely
down here.
Now, listen, it's back in the news now. There's been a blackout on the whole Clinton Global Foundation corruption, the jaw-dropping quid pro quos, all that stuff that you've outlined. There's been quite a blackout, I would say. Willful ignorance on the part of the news, ignoring it. Trump saying stupid things, they obsess on it. But just this week, Citizens United, this conservative group, I guess it was a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, and they got 44 emails released, so it's back in the news. What was in those emails?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. There's a smoking gun. Here's the whole thing people need to know about the Clinton Foundation. We all get that guys on Wall Street and oil companies raise money for candidates because they want access and they want favors. But foreign entities can't do that. Foreign governments, foreign corporations, financiers can't do that. Through the Clinton Foundation, they can and they do. And so what these emails show is a guy named Gilbert Chagoury, who's a Lebanese-Nigerian businessman, not a U.S. citizen, wants a meeting with senior State Department officials to talk to them about Middle East policy. Bill Clinton's top aide, Doug Band, sends an email to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's top aide, Uma Abedin, and says, Chagoury wants this meeting, and that Chagoury is, quote, very important to us. Now, why is Gilbert Chagoury, who's not a citizen, who lives in Nigeria, important to the Clintons? Because he gives them money. He gives them millions of dollars, and he sponsors speeches by Bill Clinton. So Uma Abedin arranges a meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, and here's how Washington works. Anybody who spends 5 minutes there knows. If the ambassador to Lebanon gets an email from the top aide to the Secretary of State saying, we want you to take this meeting and it's important, he's going to respond very differently than if he had a request for a meeting coming to his secretary or a Foreign Service officer. This is how access works, and it happened for this foreign guy who, by the way, has a criminal record for money laundering, a whole host of other things. He got the access because he paid to play.
We saw a story come out a couple of weeks ago, too, Peter. And by the way, the book is great, and you did an incredible amount of work and research, and it's really good work by you. A couple of weeks ago, it came out that a guy gave them a couple of million, ended up on some, like, nuclear board or something. Right. Here's my point, Peter. This goes to show you what a lousy candidate Donald Trump is. Because the idea that nobody knows about this stuff is nonsense. The media does pay a blind eye. I admit that. I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. I admit that. But we all know we don't care. Because Donald Trump, for whatever reason, has turned off people to such an extent that you can show me emails, you can prove corruption all day long. And you know this, Peter. She's still going to win this election.
Yeah, look, I'm a terrible predictor of elections, and I think the polls are showing that she has taken a lead. But here's the point that I make to people. And look, I've gone after Republicans and Democrats, and corruption is not the problem of one party. There are people in both parties that are corrupt. But here's what is key to understand about the Clinton Foundation and the line that we are crossing. The Clintons have set up a model that allows foreign entities to curry favor with them. We've never been there before. And if this is not dealt with, 10 years from now, we are going to have a Secretary of Defense, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, who is going to be charting our defense policy, but they're going to set up a family foundation like the Clinton Foundation. They're going to put their spouse on the lecture circuit collecting money from these foreign governments.
Yeah, right.
And when somebody says this is corrupt, they're going to say, what's wrong with it? This is what the Clintons did. And what are we going to say?
Nothing. You'll be so. Here's my question before Bernard gets some more specifics about what the Clintons have done, and you did put in your book. Because the DOJ has already come out this week and pretty much said, whatever. We know about the foundation. We're not delving anymore. They've already...
Wait. First, the FBI asked the Department of Justice to investigate. So,
right.
And then they said no. But the FBI asked.
They did ask, and the DOJ is like, nah, we're not interested. So my question to you is, Peter, what is the motivation? Is it as simple as Bill and Hillary have that much power? What is going on that all this is out there, including your book, and the DOJ is not interested?
Oh, that's a great question, and it's always hard to understand, why people are doing what they're doing. But look, Loretta Lynch works for Barack Obama, who's endorsed Hillary Clinton, and he thinks that Hillary's going to be his third term. Also remember, Loretta Lynch was appointed a U.S. attorney by then-President Bill Clinton. This is a classic example of conflict of interest. She cannot be impartial. This ought to be looked at by an independent counsel or somebody else who can evaluate it fully. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. What I can tell you is this. The FBI is looking into this. I met with people from the Bureau at their request earlier this year. They are definitely looking into this at a very, very detailed level. So whatever the DOJ does, they're going to do. But at the Bureau, there is keen interest in this. And I wouldn't fully subscribe to that CNN report that there is no investigation going on. That's not my experience.
Hopefully that's the case. So listen, Peter Schweizer on with Bernie and City wrote the book Clinton Cash. So Hillary Clinton's State Department and the Clinton Global Foundation, they colluded. She sold access to our government to foreign powers and businesses and whatnot. You pay us, and I'll get the government to okay whatever it is you want. So it was stunning, copious examples of it out there, and among them Haiti, the Laureate Foundation, the uranium to Russia deal. Which is the more egregious? Give us a couple of examples, Peter.
Well, I'll give you a clear-cut example, and this is money that goes in their pocket. This is speaking fees. This is not the Clinton Foundation. Bill Clinton, gives lectures from 2001 up to 2008. He's getting paid $150,000, $200,000 a speech. Lots of money. That's what his speaking fee, but every president since Eisenhower has done that. That's fine. His wife becomes Secretary of State. What happens? His speaking fees from overseas entities triples overnight. And so consider this case. 2009, there's a Swedish telecom company called Ericsson that's having problems with the State Department because they're selling telecom equipment to Iran, North Korea, and other oppressive governments. And we know because of the WikiLeaks State Department cables that Hillary Clinton's State Department is telling the Swedish foreign minister, you need to get them to stop or we're going to take aggressive action. Well, in the middle of this, Ericsson decides, for the first time ever, they had never sponsored a speech by Bill Clinton before. They decide they're going to go in and they're going to go in big. They're going to pay him not $150,000, not $200,000. They're going to pay him $750,000 for a 20-minute speech.
Wow.
Bill Clinton gives that speech, and literally, there's a public statement on it. 7 days later, the State Department comes out and says, we are not going to take action against Ericsson. We're going to ask them to police themselves.
It's unbelievable.
No, it stinks. Listen, but it's not as if this book came out, Peter, and it didn't raise an eyebrow with the Clintons because you can talk about this. The book comes out. It's published. It's out there. And the next thing you know, there's something called The Briefing from Hillary Clinton. What is that all about?
Yeah, I mean, look, the book came out. We got a lot of media attention, but basically what the Clintons have done is ignored this. Hillary Clinton has not had a press conference. She has not had a briefing. And guess what? The book included 2 chapters on this Russia uranium deal that was the subject of a 4,000-word, front page investigative story by 2 Pulitzer Prize winners at the New York Times. That happened. She has not been asked one question about that deal by CNN, by MSNBC, by anybody in the mainstream media. To me, that's shocking. If that were a story about Joe Biden, if that were a story about Donald Trump, about Bernie Sanders, you can bet that CNN during one of the presidential debates would have asked them about it.
Where the hell is 60 Minutes? Where's 60 Minutes? Where is the Washington Post? Where are these people? These bastions, these of journalism. They're nowhere to be found. Let me ask you a specific question. Peter Schweizer, the author of Clinton Cash with Bernie and Sid here on WABC. Laureate education. Everybody points to Trump University. He defrauded students, blah, blah, blah. A couple of students sued. Laureate education is an outfit that's being sued by a bunch of students who claim they were defrauded. Bill Clinton made $15.5 million, I believe, off them. And he worked for the guy who ran Laureate Education. Hillary Clinton's State Department gave them, I believe, $55 million for some reason, while Bill was getting paid $16 million bucks for being the chairman of Laureate Education. Tell me more about that.
It's a great gig, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, Laureate Education is this for-profit education company that basically has the bulk of its students in Latin America. These are poor kids in Brazil and Ecuador and Chile. They've run into all kinds of legal problems down there that, where there have been charges that they're engaging in illegal activities, et cetera, but profitable. Bill Clinton becomes the honorary chancellor of this outfit. And literally a couple of months after that, money from the State Department starts flowing to this group called the International Youth Foundation. Well, what is the International Youth Foundation? It's run by the same guy who runs Laureate Education.
Yeah.
And the International Youth Foundation runs projects and programs through Laureate. So, it's a classic exchange. Bill Clinton walks away with $15.5 million. The International Youth Foundation and the guy who runs it and runs Laureate gets $55 million of our taxpayer money. This is a massive scandal.
And where's the media?
Conflict of interest. Very little media interest at all. There was a little bit of reporting by Bloomberg and others. By the way, the book came out last year. 4 days after the book came out and mentioned this, Bill Clinton resigned as the honorary chancellor.
And let's emphasize that they're being sued by hundreds of students for fraud.
They are, exactly. And it's a huge problem, and it's the very thing that the Clintons have said that they don't like, which is for-profit universities. They've gone after for-profit universities, and I think in some cases that's a needed thing because there's some shysters out there. But in this particular case, definitely that applies. And you go look at the media accounts in Chile and these other countries, I mean, they're facing criminal charges because of some of the activities that they're engaged in down there.
Look, I'm voting for Hillary, but I try to be reasonable. And I admit there's a huge media bias that Donald Trump has to deal with every single day. And if a lot of this stuff was out there, it may or may not help him. I will tell you, I've got relatives that are lifelong Democrats, Peter, lifelong Democrats, who listen to the show every single day. Bernard does a great job of outlining all of these things, and they don't care. To them, it's noise. It's enough or whatever. It's Donald Trump. People looking for reasons to go after these people, even though this is all documented, this is real stuff, they just don't care. So my question to you is, with the foundation, you've proven here they've done some things that are very unsavory, if not illegal. The whole email controversy where she could have been prosecuted, but Jim Comey decided not to. Is there a smoking gun somewhere that will really come back and bite the Clintons in the ass?
Well, it's hard to know. Look, they're incredibly smart lawyers. They're not going to write an email that says, give me this money and I'll do you this.
Right.
That's just not how they roll.
Slick.
So that kind of thing doesn't act. What I tell people on corruption in general, and I would certainly say with the Clintons, is, look, if you are frustrated and you believe that our elected officials don't represent you, one of the reasons they don't represent you is they're doing fine. They're getting rich. They're making money. They're able to use their influence and their power to enrich themselves. That's why they don't represent you. So when people say corruption doesn't matter to me, I tell them it should. It goes to the heart of the problem, which is our political leaders, the political class in Washington, D.C., are detached from ordinary Americans because they are getting rich at our expense. And until that changes, don't look for them to behaving any different.
That's true. And finally, Peter Schweizer, author of Clinton Cash, of all the examples of corruption that you outline in the book and that are out there, there's too many to mention. One of the most offensive facts about the Clinton Global Foundation is that only 10% of the money, or 10 to 15%, goes to the actual the people in need, the charities.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the challenges. Clinton Foundation takes in about $150 million a year. They give about 10% of that to other charities. And then when you ask them what are they doing with the rest, they use this real squirrely language. So, take a charity, another charity like Doctors Without Borders, and they will say, we immunized 100,000 kids in Africa last year. Well, and they did that because they've got doctors all through Africa, they bought the drugs, et cetera. Ask the Clinton Foundation what they do, and they will say things like, we facilitated 100,000 kids getting vaccines. And when you ask them, well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean they have doctors on the ground. They don't. It doesn't mean that they actually bought the drugs. They didn't. They give you this sort of management. We improved efficiencies in the servicing of these people. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, right.
So it's very hard to determine what it does. What you do see is that even their health access initiative, which is supposed to deal with health issues, the head of it is not a doctor. It's not a medical professional. It's a political hack, a guy named Ira Magaziner, who's a longtime political aide. So the people running the foundation are not professional people that work in philanthropy or in healthcare. They are political aides to the Clintons.
So if, in fact, Hillary Clinton wins this election, and she's on her way, let's be honest, and all this is out there, and all this stuff that you've documented, again, which is real stuff, what does that say about our country?
Well, I think it tells us that we've got some people who, are just ignorant. They don't care. A lot of them probably don't vote. You've got, people, and this applies to both political parties, who can be willful ignorant. They know something about their candidate, and they just don't want to hear anything else. And I think Clinton has a lot of those supporters. But here's what everybody needs to be very, very crystal clear about. Bill Clinton has said he's not changing a thing. He's going to keep doing this. He's going to keep giving speeches. He's going to keep collecting money. So it's only going to get worse. And we now have uncharted territory. We now have foreign entities that can influence our political leaders by putting money in their pocket. We have never been there before, and I think it's very, very troubling.
Hillary and Bill, two slippery, slick shysters. It's really disgusting. But Peter Schweizer, you're doing God's work out there. Author of Clinton Cash, thank you for appearing on the Bernie and Sid show on WABC. We appreciate it. You were great. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks,
excellent job. You did an excellent job. Clinton Cash. I'll go out and buy it. And in fact, go over to Bernie's house this weekend. I'll have one big circle jerk up on Long Beach. Get naked and smoke some weed and read the book.
That's par for the course. Just another weekend out at the McGirt Estate. Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
That's right. So come on out. Bernie and Sid back after this.